Subscriber stream. International Master William Paschall, also known as Slaggy, here with the Chess Ponda substitute. Alright, good to see. Spectacular Camel here. Resubscribing. He subscribed with Twitch Prime 13 months, sir. Thank you for supporting the stream. Mr. Coffee, HTFP, Dragon B. We've got Astrobate, of course. And the aforementioned Spectacular Camel, Blobix. I've got submissions from 10 players already, so I don't think we're going to get more than that. Move 11, Yabata, Save a Dog, Dragon Beat, Mule Skinner, Jim, Uber Driver, Arsenal. Good 40% in Blobix. Somewhat Unsound sneaking in there at the end, joining us. Okay, guys. I'm pretty caffeinated today, so hopefully we fix the light here. It's a little too shiny. I like to put it up like that. Hopefully I didn't have too much coffee. Feel a little bit hyper usually, but that's better than being sleepy. What's up, guys? Spectacular Camel says, what? I'm watching, but it says you're playing for 0 viewers. No such thing as too much, says Coffee. Good name. So I'm having my second and a half coffee of the afternoon. Cornholio. I am down on my Beavis and Butthead. I'm not up on my Beavis and Butthead. Someone Unsound. You're dating yourself. But, let's just leave it at that. Where am I? I just erased one of my windows. Hello, window, come back. Yes, I need to delete chess window. Okay, guys, so we're going to start immediately because we have lots of games. We're going over subscriber games. It's, actually, this is the end of the list. So we got to start with move 11. Way back there. I'd like to take a look. All right, I've got to write something down. So, message I forgot to answer. This is subscriber stream, move 11. I would like to take a look at this game, Gollenbeck versus David Bronstein from 1965. Gollenbeck is a master from England, very famous player. And I don't know the history of his name, but being a Hungarian resident, I always see, you know, relations to names and stuff. And it's funny because Gollum is Hungarian for pigeon. So Gollenbeck is probably like a Slovakian formulation of the same thing. It could, Gollenbeck literally in Hungarian means like pigeons plural, I think. Okay, anyway, so Gollenbeck versus David Bronstein, 1965. This is probably like some, Bronstein was very well liked in the UK. Probably some like old Hastings game or something like that, I would imagine. Harry Gollenbeck, let's take a look. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's Zagreb 1965. Right there. Okay, so we'll look at it from Bronstein's viewpoint. That's a safe bet. Alright guys, game analysis. No blitz or challenges today. So, British master playing c4, Bronstein. Of course, in those days, Bronstein was a, you know, heavy-duty Soviet grandmaster. I'm not sure, you know, being a Jew, he was ever fully treated as equally as the others, but technically under Soviet rule, like, there was no religion, right? So, everybody was the same. I felt like a lot of the Jewish players didn't get the opportunities that that some of the others did, but Bronstein was so great that, you know, he did get a pretty good opportunities to play. So c4, g6, d4, knight f6. Bronstein, a great King's Indian player. Knight c3. Here he plays the Grunfeld though, and knight f3 from Gollenbeck, bishop g7, and now e3. So I don't know why move 11 like submitted this particular game. I'm open to information. If move 11's here, any feedback about like the particular game, why your choice of this game would be interesting. But this is a line that I play with white, and when I play e3, I mean, I'm fully on board with the fact that I have no opening advantage anymore. Basically, after you play e3, you're playing a system where you're just kind of like, hey, have equality, but at least we're in a kind of simple, easy to play, like quiet system. Against a really well prepared player, I think white has to be careful not to be worse. And there's a very important game. How does it go now? Bronstein was black, probably one of the most, of course, important players in the Grunfeld, being Bronstein. Bronstein's selected games. He has a game where, you know, and I'm going to take it back. Bronstein has a game in this line in his selected games, but there's another game. The first person to play really well with black was actually Aliekin. And Aliekin had a game where he basically played like castles, queen b3, bbb. Because despite what the statistics here say, like bishop e2 being the most common move, queen b3 is actually considered to be like the critical test. E6 is Aliekin's idea. So Botvinnik after Aliekin, basically E6, Alyukhin, I should pronounce it correctly. I know Nefedov. We miss Nefedov. He's never here anymore. But he usually corrects my bad Russian pronunciations. So Dr. Alyukhin first came up with the concept of playing e6, which looks counterintuitive because you're blocking your bishop. But that guy will go to like b6 later, bishop b7 or bishop a6. That's the best setup for black. Queen b3 is critical. Interestingly enough, a little off subject, this was the first game I ever won against the master. This position with black in the Grunfeld, queen b3, e3 system. Just complete luck. I beat a FIDE master. Somewhere around 1987, 88, I'm not quite sure which year it was. My first win against the national master, actually it was a FIDE master I beat with black pieces. Yours truly. But anyways, okay. So here bishop e2. I don't think this move is really feeble for white. Equality at least for black after c5. But Bronstein is Bronstein, and I guess he didn't want to play a, you know, run-of-the-mill move here. So instead of playing the obvious c5, which is like a Catalan / Tarrasch reversed, or also d takes c4, gaining a tempo or half tempo, and then playing c5. Basically, Bronstein has like two ways to equalize right away, but he doesn't want to do that. Instead, he plays this like move that like complicates the game. Arguably, like incorrect in the sense that this puts the knight in front of the pawn on c7. So WJ Loof, just subscribed, second month. By the way, guys, thanks for supporting the stream. Blobix, Jim, and J Loof. It's like J-Lo, but J Loof. Supporting the stream to the utmost this week with 600, 500, and 300 bits, respectively. This is interesting. So knight c6, just an attempt to get creative. There is notable factoid here that Michalewski V actually played this. We had a lot of games on World Chess Network with Michalewski Victor, and I regard him as kind of an expert in the Grunfeld. So to see him playing knight c6 is interesting. D takes c4, bishop takes c4. Actually, a lot of Israeli players, I think because of Gelfand, maybe, I'm not sure, but really big on the Grunfeld. The Hungarians traditionally had a lot of Adorian influenced Grunfeld players. Leko was a student of Adorian for a while. He came up playing the Grunfeld. So Grunfeld now is Bashir Legrave's territory, Spidler. Okay, a6, interesting. Another kind of creative move. Queen e2. Golombek playing very, correctly, by the way. And then bishop g4. So it's a little bit weird. Black setup, like a queen's gambit accepted. It looks like Bronstein's going out of his way to try to play a semi-fishy setup here to try to confuse his more straightforward opponent. H3, bishop takes f3, and yeah, that's, not really what we're looking forward to here with black. Is trading pieces down. Nothing like J-Lo, sorry. I don't like J-Lo, it just came out. It's alright. Queen takes f3, e5, d5. I'm not into like People magazine or celebrities or anything like that. It just sounded funny. So queen takes f3, e5, rook d1. The rook d1. No, if I'm Golombek at this point, I don't think I'd want to like allow my pawn to be isolated voluntarily. Like, okay, I gotta turn off the engine so we're not biased by its suggestions, but like, what's wrong with d5? I don't really understand, what's wrong with d5. You chase the knight away and then you play e4 and you have a kind of normal position. But Golombek here, I guess his thinking was that he can allow the isolated pawn. I mean, this is not a question of like taking the pawn on d5. I'm just saying, like, long term, it's slightly worsening white's pawn structure. But Golombek thinking that the bishops would be active, which is reasonable, I guess. Bronstein, of course, he continues to make moves that you didn't expect. Queen d6 just kind of maintaining the tension. But I still like white here. It's too late to submit a short game. A very short game. A very short game. We've got a lot of submissions today, and I'm wordy and like caffeinated, so I'm probably going to be going too long on most of these games. Golombek came up with the best move, d5, knight e7, and then he played e4. This looks right. Now Bronstein with king h8. I just don't really like black's position. Two bishops. The white square bishop, nothing special yet, but it's still okay. This bishop at g7 is a disaster. So Bronstein fully aware he's probably worse here. Bishop e3. It's basically a queen's gambit accepted. And now knight to d7. I was actually thinking knight e8 to keep like d6 blockaded. And now we have f5 ideas, but it looks like white has to be better here. But f5 is coming. You don't really want to play g4. G4 just seems too extreme. The method to the madness of Bronstein. Queen e2 and now f5, and he decided to just play solidly with f3. Yeah, and the problem for black is that, like, you can compare this to a classical King's Indian, but in the classical King's Indian, you can't checkmate white if you don't have a white square bishop to sacrifice on h3. And Bronstein clearly doesn't have such bishop. He's missing his white square bishop. He plays bishop f6. Preparing to try to play bishop h4 and like f4 and trade off his bad b. c1, bishop h4. I mean, I don't know if white could have preempted that somehow. Maybe bishop f2. Bishop f2, I assume he would probe with like bishop g5 maybe. Here, here, here. And then the Kasparovian, I want to say. Kasparovian knight maneuver. Knight g8. And it's starting to feel like white doesn't have a plan. Look at these pieces. I talked to you guys about this like 2 weeks ago. If we draw a geometric sort of shape here, like the containment of all the white pieces, we draw the same shape for the black pieces, you know. Look how much territory the black pieces are spread out in. And look how the white pieces are jammed into this little area. And I think that tells you something about, okay, one great thing about Bronstein, what made him a great player, was his ability to understand coordination, like extremely good at coordination. So already it looks like Golombek kind of failing to find a plan here. Well, black has a concrete plan. He's going on dark squares. So I like white before, but it seems like he's struggling to find any sort of plan. His only file is here. You know, it feels like he should have been trying to make progress on the queen side somehow. Admittedly, it's hard to do. So now he takes. And not sure, you know, if it's good or not. I mean, this could be a weakness on a white square. That might be a theme. Try to make this white square bishop good again. Make your bishops great again. But white's not that well poised to attack on the white squares here. So he tried. He tried to stir up trouble for black on the white squares. But it seems a bit slow. And again, like g4 would be a very dramatically weakening move for white. Oh god, he did it. What did I say? Dramatically weakening move for white. Secret Life of Bad Bishops. The sequel to Secret Life of Pets. So, another church scandal. Anyway.
No!
Alright. Bang. In there on the dark squares. And this is an accident waiting to happen. I mean, this is a very classic King's Indian pawn sacrifice idea. Very classic. If you look at like Boleslavsky, all the Soviet grandmasters of the 50s, Leonid Stein, another one, kind of forgotten, great player. Leonid Stein had a short career, but he died prematurely. Definitely a player you want to check out if you haven't before. Great Sicilian player, also King's Indian. Some wonderful King's Indians that Stein played. But this is a classic, what they call sealer sweeper sacrifice, most commonly seen in the Benoni. Black now using it on white in this King's Indian here. I mean, Bronstein was one of the premier King's Indian players. Along with Stein, Boleslavsky, these other Soviet greats. Before Fischer, you know, Fischer basically kind of learned the King's Indian from the Soviets. Bishop d4 check. I don't know, he's probably gonna haunt me for that, but I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, you know, that Fischer learned King's Indian from the Russians. Bishop f6, knight takes f6, and the dark squares. The three dark square pieces coordinate. So odd question, doing some chess paintings, and I can use some inspiration. Anyone has some suggestions for chess art? Bishop e2. Looks like a pawn. You know, that was kind of Black's whole game plan. Make his bishop bad. This bishop is going, you know, bishop is like a tornado through Alabama. It doesn't really exist. Hurricane in Alabama, whatever. Rook e8, queen f2, f takes g4. I guess white's just falling apart now. This bishop is fake news. It's non-existent. And look at those rooks. They never did anything. They just sat there. They're like dummies, you know? Dummy rooks. They just look like rooks. But they don't actually do anything. It's sort of horrible. So it was like e3. Just totally overwhelming. And now knight back to d7. Retreat. It was so easy, you know, like easy made it look so easy. What happened to white here? How did this happen? He had such a normal opening, and I thought he had an advantage, and like next thing you know, it's all gone. Striking game. I'm glad you submitted this, move 11. I mean, I don't think we can figure out everything. Another sealer sweeper sacrifice. This is like an interference theme. I'm guessing that it's about clearance on this diagonal and getting some sort of check and rook f2 going on. Right? See? I was expecting rook f2. But if you play rook f2, I guess white gets like a rook and pawn and knight for the queen or whatever. So for the piece, he takes here. Yeah, and you're winning anyway. So that's the most efficient. Just total slaughter, you know. But if you go back to, I don't know, move 16, let's say, turn on the engine. Check out the advantage for white, like +1. But honestly, not that easy to play this type of Queen's Gambit accepted structure for white, where black has this like breakthrough with f5, and it's harder for white. You know, where is white's queenside play in this type of structure? One interesting thing, I mean, for me was this 97, because 97, I looked at 97 and 98, and the computer is thinking about 98 as well. But see, the advantage of knight d7 versus 98 is that it doesn't interfere on the back rank. Black has a little better coordination. Guys, I want to suggest like g4 for white, but I mean, if the white king weren't on g1, you know, if the white king were on e1 maybe, or white king were castled queenside, g4 would be a great move. But here, you know, it's just too dicey. The black pieces will filter through the G file. I mean, this is going to be... Maybe this is a brilliant move, actually. Like, you play G4, and then you don't take. The Russians are assisting. They were assisting back then. The Russians were assisting Bobby Fischer to become world champion. They just didn't know it. But this is an interesting idea. So you play G4 and you just let black take at some point. So no matter how this shakes out, if you think about it, no matter how this shakes out, black will never put a knight on f5 without sacrificing a piece. Because if you push, you'll never get a knight f5. If you take on g4, he takes with the queen. The pawn on e4 guards f5. If you take on e4, same thing. The pawn on g4 guards f5. So actually, if white just doesn't do anything, just hangs out here, like the computer says, this is interesting. This is actually not a crazy move. It looks like g4 is kind of grabbing some space. Crazy. All right, guys, that was a long game. Move 11, number 1. Ubatis is up next. I know it's late for you guys. Ubatis is European, so he's special. No, I'm just kidding. I live in Hungary most of the time. Strange ideas openings. What is this? Here it is. Libatis. It's lobotomy. It's a lobotomy. I managed a rather satisfactory endgame ending in chapter 1. Okay, guys, subscribe to stream. Let's get some more people. Bring your family. You know, even if they don't play chess, force them to watch my stream, just so my numbers go up a little bit. I know this crazy St. Louis thing just doesn't stop. All right. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to pay attention to the number of viewers. We're going to focus on our analysis here and let people realize that it's a great stream. Looks like I got a little bit of lag or something. I have this weird bar at the bottom of my chat on Twitch that says connecting to chat. Does anybody else have that? Does anybody else have this? Do you have a connecting to chat? I've never seen that before with like a little circle that's like loading. Hello. Oh man, it looks like I'm like, my page got screwed. Maybe I just hung or something. Wow, we just dropped from 19 to 15 viewers. I've got no notification of any problems on Streamlabs, which is kind of weird. Yet only 15 viewers at the moment, it says. That's strange. You don't have that bar. Yes, connecting. Luckily, the video still works. Alright, so this is Ubatis playing white. Birds opening. Guys, I got another message from Save Dog. Refresh the stream to fix the chat. Oh, this is just now. I think we're there. C6 against the bird. Very creative. E3. You know, it's hard not to transpose some kind of F4 type of Caro-Kann here. So, alright, E3. I mean, I really feel like, you know, probably should play like Knight F3. E3 seems debatable. You could play E4, clearly, but then black plays D5. Kind of surprising if you look at statistics there, how good white's score is with E5. That's a little bit shocking. Then it evens out. That's messed up. So right here it says E5, 59 games, white scores 42% to 32. But when you play E5, and then you just break it down to the good moves for black, which are bishop F5 and C5, black's doing fine. So H5 not recommended, apparently. H5 and G6 are not recommended here. I think G6 would be like a normal. G6 would just transpose to a Guarani's Caro-Kann. Critical moves are F5, or sorry, bishop F5 and C5. All right, I'm here. Sorry, do we know you? Okay, E3, E6. What? Knight F3, bishop E7, and then B3. I mean, black's played a ridiculous sort of formation here. E6 and C6 for no good reason. Nothing to see here. D4 is a good move. You could also, you could play C3 probably. You could even play knight to C3. Who is this? Who is this? Bob Sacamano 27. Never heard of him. D4, C5. Whoa. Black setup just ridiculous. I mean, E6, C6, bishop F6. Like, what is black doing? White's playing the stonewall attack, but it's not clear what black's doing. I'm just kidding, Bob. What's up, man? Giving you the old, what do they call that? You know, the thing that baseball players do when the rookie hits their first home run. Everybody just like, you know, doesn't even like congratulate him. Anything like that. All right, so C5 tempo down. Yield recapture. I like taking with the pawn. Feels like black's a couple tempi behind here with the bishop kind of strangely placed on F6. And white is setting up what is basically a cross between the Stonewall and the Kali-Zukertort system. I was just having a discussion with Asterbait about moves like this, where you prematurely start fishing for tricks instead of focusing on fundamentals and development. That's what this move is. A perfect example of not focusing on fundamentals, just playing for sort of cheap shots. Knight d5, it's moving the same piece twice. Black has development issues here. Bishop on c8, cannot play. So you have like two problem pieces in the same position. The classic bad French bishop on c8 and the Queen's Indian knight on b8. I've done videos about like both of these being bad pieces. It's rare to see them both kind of present in the same position though. So here, G3, I mean, nothing wrong with that. I think that G3 is my first choice because I feel like my queen wants to go to E2 on the half and file more typically. See what the Oracle says. The Oracle supports our guest here, Ubatis. He's won with the Oracle, Queen D2. See, when I see this, I'm a little bit concerned what we're going to do about the queen side, but I guess you could play C4. You look a little further and you say, okay, C4 will adapt. We'll play C4 and put our knight to C3, where it's actually better placed. So that's cool. Mr. Coffee raised an interesting question. G3, okay. This king seems weak. Mr. Coffee, you know our saying, right? Guys, invite your friends. We need more viewers. I'm going to share the knowledge. Guys, please support the stream as well. If a tree falls in the forest, Mr. Coffee, does it make a sound? I mean, if nobody's there to hear it. So the point is, right, the stupid analogy, you're making a weakness, but there's nobody there to exploit it. You know what I mean? So is it really a weakness? And that's my philosophical argument. Is a weakness really a weakness if nothing's there to attack it? And the answer is no, it's not a weakness. It can be a weakness in theory only, but not a weakness in practice. Yeah, Wernacki likes it. So Queen D2, Queen C7, and then he still refuses to play G3. Hardcore refusal to create weaknesses in this position. Absolutely principled, very well. The problem with this move is, of course, that he can kick you out with D6. If he does kick you out with D6, you have options. I am not against playing this move. Yes, I realize there are ramifications. Mr. Coffee is right. Mr. Coffee is right. There is a serious question about the long diagonal. So, what did we learn from this? That I just agree with whatever? What we learned from this is that you have to have this discussion with yourself during the game. You know, okay, am I creating weaknesses? Yes. Can they be exploited? Maybe, maybe not, you know? Okay, Bob's like, aren't we going to castle queenside? You see, there's a good point. Like, okay, I wasn't really planning on castling queenside, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. If you did castle queenside, I would think then again, you know, maybe these weaknesses aren't that significant. Okay, anyway. Queen C7, 95. This is a very good prophylactic move. Mr. Ubatis, aka Spectacular Camel, he makes like one move tactical mistakes often, but positionally he's master level. This is my opinion about Mr. Spectacular Camel. If he just cleaned up his act and didn't make blunders, he would probably be the kind of player who could, you know, strategically go to master level. Castles C4, and now knight on D to E7. That piece ultimately got pushed back, which we figured that would happen. Castles. Bob, no, normally you don't castle queenside in the Cully's retort. And you know what, Bob? It was a good open-minded thing to ask, but actually, you'll see this occasionally with people who play the London system. Trying to castle queenside. Check the game Karyakin versus Adams, London system, from like 3 years ago, where Karyakin, I guess it was around 2016, Karyakin tried to castle queenside in a London system. You're not supposed to castle queenside in the closed queen pawn games. Though a lot of people try to do that in coffee house style settings, generally, no, you don't castle queenside in them. This is a bird's opening, technically. It started with one F4. But basically, they're all interrelated. You know, this became a queen pawn game, and it's actually a hybrid between like the Zucker retort and I guess like the bird's opening / stonewall attack. Knight takes e5. Thank you. F takes e5. And then, oh, our bishop's trapped. Yeah. Black just lost a piece. Thank you very much. All right, so nothing to see here. 2 pawns for a piece. Game over. Basically, the rest is just a whitewash. I mean, this is devastation. Knight f6 is probably a threat immediately. This is, you know, feels a little bit like fancy play syndrome with rook takes f5. But clearly white's winning, you know. There's a massive bind. I mean, even if you just play knight d6 here, you played knight f6, just this move like binding black. Like these 3 pieces aimed at the black king side here, it's over. And there's no way the black can survive. He can't get his pieces. These 3 pieces are just totally shut down. First person shooter. Well, poker we call it fancy play syndrome. I'm borrowing that for this chess example. I think that when you're up material as Spectacular Camel is here, to just a piece for 2 pawns, you generally don't want to be too liberal, like giving it back when you have a sure win. Basically as an automatic win based on material. When you have an automatic win, you know, based on material, you generally don't need the sacrifice back stuff. I think it's an unnecessary risk. So it was like a tournament game, I would maybe like criticize him. But okay, he's having fun. It's a nice move, man. It's a nice move. And this is beautiful. Now only move is rook g6. And there's a slight issue here with queen f8 check. So it's going to be difficult. Asterbe would be very unhappy with this. You missed mate in 1. But the elegant mate, the double queen, he under-promoted to a rook, which is actually the correct way to do it. According to the old masters, you should always mate with the smallest, or you know, the lowest form of material, basically. So this is technically the right way to checkmate there. But I don't know about the etiquette of like not doing mate in 1. I don't know, that might be kind of construed as trolling your opponent, you know. I think technically you really have to mate in 1 here if you want to be ethical and a good sport. This is an over the board game. I don't know. Chess ethics 101. I'll have to find an expert on chess ethics. All right, so move 11's out. You bought us. Thank you for sharing. Save a Dog's up next. Guys, we've got a bunch of games to go over. So we've got a lot of material for today. I don't think anybody else should submit any games. We're just so full up. Save a dog. My neighbors have 4 dogs. Save a dog study. Game versus my dad as black. All right. What is this like? What kind of time control or conditions was this played in? Did I send you the wrong one? Okay, game versus your dad as black is not the correct one. Did I miss the right one? Wait, I think I got the wrong one there. I added a game to my study that I would... There's two here. There's one 2 hours ago. Save a dog. I added a game to my study that I would like you to review on stream. All right, I think I missed that earlier. It's my fault. I should read this one. Here. I had the black pieces. All right, we'll spare you the game with your dad. Is Carlsen versus Aronian the highest rated game ever played? Good question. I would think like I would think it would be like Carlsen Caruana or something. Mr. Coffee said your time is almost up against Mr. Coffee. Uh-oh. My time is I almost flagged in some correspondence games. Mr. Coffee's was like buried. So, alright. Save Dog versus Yuri. Save Dog playing the Caro Kann with knight f6. And now knight takes f6 check. So, this is like not a variation I know super well because I've never played it with black and just a blitz game or two. I think that this variation kind of got a bad rap over the years because black has like very limited sort of winning chances. And also if you think about it, it's kind of like the, I don't know, Queen's Gambit, Roy Lopez exchange variation in that like there are going to be situations where the king and pawn in game is like lost for black. If we go to a pure king and pawn in game, black is just going to be lost in the structure. What's up, Anita? So we have to be careful, not to transpose to like a losing king and pawn in game, though that's a long way off. Also a thought, as I said, in the exchange variation of the Roy Lopez, but in recent times, it looks like this variation is getting played a lot. The e takes s6 Caro Kann is making a major comeback, theoretically. But your opponent played knight f3. That's like the second or third most common variation. Usually white plays the bishop out and puts the knight on e2. You can't play bishop d3 because you just would sacrifice this pawn on d4. I mean, I don't know. Is this a legitimate gambit? Funny, like this has never been tried. It's kind of weird, that this idea has never been tried. There is one game and black didn't take the pawn. Man, that's weird. Norway, but it seems like black has to take this pawn. I mean, it's like a pawn. So central pawn free. Anyway, usually c3 followed by bishop somewhere and knight e2. But knight f3 is also a variation. Bishop d6. Bishop c4. It reminds me of the Petrov, actually. I don't know too much about this. I imagine that black is pretty solid. Eventually, black has the pin, bishop g4. And I would wonder when and if you should play that. Stockfish wants to play knight a6. What an interesting move. But it's a Petrov idea. The structure, the central file, the mutual central open file, bishop on d6, they remind me of Petrov. Knight a6 is actually a development plan for black there. Obviously, if it can't go to c6, it usually goes to d7. It's just an alternative way of developing the knight. Does he really want to trade his bishop to damage your pawn structure? I mean, maybe it's worth it, maybe not. This would be such a difficult decision for white to undertake. Would you really want to give up your good bishop to just smash the pawns or not? I guess some people would choose to play this. But, I mean, I think the argument would be that, it's a strong bishop for a knight on the side of the board. I kind of like bishop g4, getting the bishop outside the pawn chain, so we can complete develop naturally. Rook e8 is obviously a good move, but you're going to have to be careful with your f7 pawn, i.e. c3, queen b3. Here's a game for 2016. Zoli Almashi playing versus this Austrian guy, Kreisel. I don't know where this was played because Almaty Zoltan doesn't play a lot of open tournaments. It could have been played in like the Olympiad. It would be funny if Hungary got paired with Austria. I don't remember, but just not really sure where Almaty would have played him. Anyways, c3, bishop g4. One thing that I'm sorry about with the lichess Opening Explorer is that it doesn't say where the game was played. I think that would be an awesome feature. But the Opening Explorer is an outside service provided to lichess, I think, from some other site. So, but it really leaves something to be desired because we don't know what tournament Zoli played Robert Kreisel in. I would like to know if that was like Austrian Team Championship 2016, most likely, or Hungarian Team Championship, probably. One of the team championships. Anyways, so if bishop g4, we have a neat move there, actually. I just realized that if queen b3, you have rook e7, or yeah, this is nice because you have actually defense both ways. Queen b3 is not a threat. So it's funny, like two games where the higher player won in this position, but it doesn't seem to be like white really has an advantage in this position. White's only advantage in this position is the theoretical possibility of winning with the pawn majority in the queens in the in the endgame. But I like bishop g4. It's like an active move. Somebody play queen d3. I mean, I think that's a pro move. Sergey. 97, and now king h1. Check this out. Just wanted to look at this, but amazingly, Stockfish thinks that black has a big advantage. Oh, this is an ancient game from 1996. I just realized. Wow. Sergey Movsesian, who's 2600 nowadays, is only 2470 there. Okay, so let's get back to your game. c3, bishop g4. You did play bishop g4. Okay. Queen d3 is actually the game. Wow. And then you play queen c7. Blatant attack against h2. h3, bishop h5. And now white played bishop b3. I don't know. I don't understand like what white's gonna do, really, to play for anything here. Like the best plan for white is to trade the rooks in open file and pray that you get like a winning king and pawn in game or something like that. It seems like, I mean, seriously, no advantage for white. I think that here you have to consider, maybe possibly a more active path for the knight. b6, d5. But again, I'm no authority. I mean, you got the same plan maybe of playing knight f8, knight e6, knight f4 toward the king side. HTFP says knight b6 is always wrong, though. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's usually wrong. This is more compact, more staying together. I agree. I mean, knight b6 is not always good. Sometimes in the GF Caro, though, I mean, this is actually done. Honestly, I think they're both okay here. Okay, knight f8, knight h4. That's a strong move by white. That's a really good idea. Probably now you have to take and play g6 to keep him off of f5. I would just play like this. I really wouldn't want my opponent's knight getting in, to f5. Anonymous Gifter, who looks suspiciously like one of the ghosts from Pac-Man, they just gave Willwolf 42069 tier 1 sub. Was that Pinky, Inky, Blinky? What's the other one called? Thank you, Ghost. Astrobate 110 bits, thank you as well. Anyways, I would think that with this pawn structure, we don't mind playing g6. This is kind of a funny move, rook e6. Just ignoring knight f5. Once it gets in there, is it like a roach motel? Like, once the roaches get in? It's the reverse roach motel. Like, once roaches get in, they can't get out. Or they never leave, you know? I'm afraid it's Hotel California then, here, knight f5. Will we ever get rid of this without allowing like a knight h6 check or something kind of disruptive? So that's what I would be thinking here, Save a Dog. I mean, it's just easier to play like g6 and not go there. You know what I mean? I don't want to go there. That's just me, though. Clyde. Inky Blinky and Clyde. I thought it was called Bob. Inky Blinky. I know Clyde is a name. So take here. Now we can't get rid of him. So, I mean, obviously, your opponent can play knight takes d6, man. You know, and probably it's not that good, though, huh? Because your e-file. Queen takes bishop e3. But this e-file business. Hard for him to deal with that, isn't it? This is pretty cool. The way that Save a Dog just judges that the e-file is more important than allowing this knight to establish residence on f5. That's a pretty subtle judgment. Anyways, it's still very hard for either side to make progress. Not sure what this does. I definitely, understand trading pieces. But you have to remember that this is this is technically your good bishop, and that's technically his bad bishop. What if you played g6? I mean, your refusal to play that earlier. Knight d6, queen d6. Now your knight won't have g6 to go to, so it's going to have to come back to one of these squares. But here again, I would think you'd be doing okay, because the e-file gives you sort of pressure. Computer doesn't like black's position because it likes bishops and it likes pawn structure, but it's funny. Still, you're okay here. Alright. Difficult to come up with a plan, though. It's difficult to play for a win on the black side of the EF Caro-Kann. Wow, Warnaki, happy birthday. Bishop h2 check here. So the only thing is you have to be careful that you don't go into that lost king and pawn endgame. I mean, like literally. Because we're sort of creeping closer to that. Oh, this was a disaster, though. So he basically blundered. Rook e1. How bad is bishop takes f4, queen f4? Then what's the next move, though? The e-file becomes so important here. I think it's kind of nice play by black. Good judgment. Make me want to play this opening. Rook e1, g6, g3, bishop e3, knight e3. Rufus and Doofus just subscribed. Wow. He subscribed for 2 months. Thank you, sir. Guys, we got new subscribers today. Well, not new ones, but repeat subscribers who are new to you, new to today. F5. And once again, I mean, this is starting to look now like a situation where he's got those 3 pawns over there, you have these 4 pawns over here. So king and pawn game on the queen side might be winning for white, but if he makes it to the end game, because right now the middle game is starting to look like black is better. Open file is dominated by black, plus you're threatening f4, breaking up his king side, and then there's real danger to the white king. So this was a great move by white, knight g2, like preventing f4, and also protecting his rook. And trading down is good for him. So here I would, I'd be a little hesitant with black about trading on my opponent's terms. I would seriously look at everything, maybe rook e4, every different variation of trading or delaying exchanges for black. But I mean, I'm skeptical of this because it seems like as we get closer to the end game, white starts to like be fine, more and more fine, and more likely to have an endgame where he can just create like a pass pawn on the queen side with advantage. So, how about like queen e2? You're threatening queen d5 check, winning a pawn. That's pretty awkward. Pretty awkward to meet that. Queen b3. Yeah. It looks like he has to play queen b3 just to stop queen d5. It's such a strong threat. So now it's a white fighting tooth and nail to hang on now. Down a pawn on the king side. Queenside majority's gone. White misplayed it. Yeah, he's paralyzed. Ugh. And now you're even toying around with stuff like f4. Maybe a sort of positional pawn sacrifice. Actually, it's not even sacrifice. You're threatening f4. Pawn takes pawn, queen f5 with what is essentially like a nearly winning position for black. Now if you play f4, he takes it, and you play queen f5, he hangs on with g3, or king g3. Good idea. Knight endgame, down a pawn. Not optimal, because we have the doubled pawns, so it's kind of a tricky situation. If you can undouble those pawns, you're almost certainly going to win. If you can't, it's going to be a little bit tricky. I think it's double-edged because, generally you don't want to go into knight endgames when you're down material. Pawns mean a lot in a knight endgame, more than a bishop endgame or rook endgame. It's closest to a king and pawn endgame. But at the same time, if you can't undouble your pawns, then maybe it's not a win. This is like inane. It's like the most inane thing. I mean, he wants to activate his knight, I guess, but literally the only reason he's not automatically lost here is the fact that you have doubled pawns, I think. And what he does is like immediately undouble your doubled pawns into just like a pure knight in game. So this is like technically winning position. I'm not 100% sure if the way you played the pawns here is best or not, but it looks good enough. You're coming up with the king now. You penetrate. Actually, you have the further outside alignment. I don't know, I'm just making this term up. But the way the pawns are aligned is advantageous for black. You want the pawns to be further outside. So the fact that you have A, B, and C versus B, C, and D is probably advantageous to black. And this is just ridiculous. Okay, knight f4, and so resigns. I mean, he hoped that he could get in here, or if you play h6, he has an h5 lever. I mean, obviously that could work if he has enough time. You're playing b4. When he takes, how is this working when he takes? So he does take. I mean, he's playing king g5 next, and king h6. He's going to win your h pawn. Wow, I mean, this is kind of dangerous. King h6, king h7, king g6. He's only a few squares away from queening. So he's actually in some sort of zugzwang. What if he played b3 now? I wonder. Would b3 help him at all? b3, king f7, king h6, king g8, and something like h5. Pawn takes h5, king takes h5. Your opponent played kings. Let's look at b3 first. King f7, king h6. Man, this isn't easy. So if king g8, he has h5. King f7. I mean, this is huge. This is huge because he can't play king takes h7 because of g5 and f4, and his king is boxed out. This is an absolutely critical variation. You're winning because he's stuffed on the side there in front of his h-pawn, which means he has to play some sort of secondary move like king g5. And then you slowly creep up. But it wasn't easy to see that, you know. b3 I would have thought was White's best practical try. Instead he played the more obvious king h6. Yeah, I mean, I would have been scared to go into this if I hadn't had time to calculate. I wouldn't have been sure. King f6, king h7, and g5. Okay. I mean, again, you have the same idea. If h5, king f7. So well calculated. I mean, this is an over-the-board game, right? So you had time. I mean, in a blitz game or something, it would have been very difficult to calculate this in advance. Now it's over. I mean, you're just in there first. So it wasn't that easy to see it in advance. I was just wondering if there's any way you could play this, any cleaner way to play this. h6. In retrospect, maybe this is simpler. I was actually unsure because here, obviously this move. I looked at king e6, but it's not good enough. He takes and plays g7. So you have to take, and after king f5, here, that's a fast threat. You're very, very fast now with king c4, king b3, king b2, a4, a3, a2. Faster than him, maybe. So you see, at the end of the day, your pawn is landing first. And you're checking on h1. And you're going to like check on h1 and then force him over and trade the queens. Okay, guys, long analysis. Good game, Save a Dog. All right, so that's the next one off the list. I can't read my own writing. Dragon B. Good calculation going in the king and pawn game. I mean, obviously, it should be winning for you, but not all king and pawn games are wins. You have to be 100% sure before you trade there. Take care, WJ Loof. Get some dinner. Dinner and beer sounds good. I've got beer, but no dinner. A little bit later. Guys, we're going over subscriber games. WJ Loof, thanks for the donations. Acerbate's leading this week. Blubix, what happened? He settles for second place. All right, Jim is in third place with 500. Got WJ Loof, HTFP, Warnaki, Merle Dixon, Fish Rat Cow. Thank you, guys. Okay, Dragon B. BBB. Where are we here? Below is a game of mine, playing with White. All right. This is not a long one. All right, so Dragon B is White. D4. We've got Dragon B playing the Catalan. Look out. He's beaten me once already, maybe twice. I don't remember. An interesting move here by Black, B6. This is one of those weird moves that sometimes people do. Like, I get this a lot, Dragon B. I do like knight c3, knight f6, you know. Bishop g5, and they'll go like b6, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess this example is not great, but maybe bishop e7, e3, and b6. So I'll see the b6 really early in the Queen's Gambit declined. But this is different because you're playing Catalan when you're looking for that diagonal, right? And your whole plan is to put your bishop on the long diagonal. And black's going b6 right away, kind of asking for it here on the diagonal. Fully caffeinated. Funny, this is played twice, once by Halkias, and neither player with white could pull out a win. Large sample size of 2 games. Okay, Alexander Schneider. So bishop g2, bishop b7, knight f3. So I mean the possibility, you know, becomes present for black to play d takes c4 and free their mind, basically. Free their bishop from forever being like a passive piece. Wow, Smickle was 2575 in 1977. Dude, that's a massive rating. Holy crap. The Czech Grandmaster was 2575. That is a massive elo. I did not realize he was that high. There weren't a lot of players in 1977 who were rated 2575. It's like Spassky. It's like a Spassky level rating. Oh my god. So what happens if d takes c4 here? How would we handle this? I'm curious. The best move. I mean, think about it for a second. You've got 2 games here. Both of them are 2200s. But if you think about the position logically, black's whole problem, right, starting from the beginning is like you go bishop g2, you're trying to control this diagonal. He's fighting for this diagonal. But his big fear should be that the diagonal remains closed. I would think you could actually consider taking with the pawn here. Because if queen takes, his queen becomes a target. It may be like this is the best move order for white, actually. You know, I mean, Alexander Schneider and the other player didn't play this, but you can understand why. Like, they're making a totally normal routine move, bishop g2. It's still not too late to play c takes d. Because here, bishop takes d5, really? Are you going to do that? That's not a good move. So maybe Dragon B, you should just exchange pawns first. Once you play knight f3, both these players failed to take on c4, and I think that this would really make their position a lot better, a lot more playable, you know, and justify having put that bishop on the long diagonal. Even though they have to trade off their strong point, they don't end up with a bad bishop. And I think that's a big battle. That's a victory for black. Okay, but nevertheless, like, I would have, in a vacuum, I probably would have, if I hadn't thought about it, played like you. Knight f6, castles. You know, again, look at the score here. 44 games with white with c takes d5. Don't give black, you know, the argument is then don't give black the chance to make this capture again. If you give black a chance to make that capture, he will eventually make the capture and not have necessarily like kind of the inferior piece going forward. Castles, bishop b7, knight c3, knight on bd7. So slowly we're like going to transpose to what would be like a normal Catalan position. The only thing is, like, normally black would have to play c6 at some point in most of these lines, and it's like he's getting away with something, almost like not having to spend a tempo on playing c6, which would be a typical like Queen's Indian Catalan type of thing. So eventually Dragon B took, but it's different now, you know? This is different, guys. I think that black could take with a knight in this position. What do you want to bet? That knight takes is not a bad move for black here. solid player plays knight takes d5. Karyakin prefers ed. I mean, I'm just saying, like, let's look what the engine says, but mathematically, which is the better move? Every time you move a pawn, you weaken your position slightly. So this is actually the safer move for black. It's Anatoly Karpov versus Tony Miles. And Sahes Luputian, Ribli Sasanko. Yeah, just fish like that. So yeah, this is a good recapture. Let's see. Knight takes is better. But if you have to play for a win here, for $1 million, I got some scratch-off tickets here for like $1 million. But seriously, if you had to win this position with black, or, you know, for example, Karyakin had to win because he loves hanging pawn, queens, Indian type positions. If you had to win this position for $1 million with black, you would take with the pawn because you would not trade pieces. Even though you know that it's the worst move, you would play this. Black's better off with the bishop on d6 though. Something like, it's Mr. Coffee, it's what you call it, Kolikotnowski, Yusupov system with the bishop on the wrong square. Anyway, Larry Evans versus Bent Larson. Evans lost a horrible game to Reshevsky once. Uber driver, are you here? Uber driver? Anyone? Anyways, so knight takes d5, excellent move. Thanks, Warnaki, for the donation. And now knight d5. This is a tough one, though. I don't want to spend forever, guys, but I'm just feeling kind of inspired today. Knight takes d5 is definitely a safe move for white. But again, if we want to like play chess and try to make the mathematically correct move for white, I think I had a very similar position against like Save-A-Dog or someone recently. But I mean, bishop d2 sort of deserves to be considered, you know? At least you make some constructive developing moves, sort of. You can see Rookie 1 was played in a game. It strikes me as slightly... Oh, Uber Driver's here. Is he here? Uber Driver, are you here? He's a game submitted, didn't he? For the end. But Uber Driver's a big fan of Reshevsky. There was... With the closed structure ED, Reshevsky versus Larry Evans. Reshevsky was black. It was a massacre. Beautiful game. The bad bishop that could. Making our bad bishops great again. So this move, I kind of think bishop d2. That would be like what Ivanchuk would play with white. You know, I don't see any problem with bishop d2. It's pretty modest. Or Granda Zuniga would probably play this. So interestingly, Rookie 1, the engine actually likes that move for a moment. I called it artificial. This was what Karpov played. And another Grandmaster, Yevseyev. But I'm not sold on the position of this rook here. You know, I think that it's going to be questionable as to whether it really plays a role or not from e1. Okay, so knight takes d5. Tough recapture here. I want to take with the bishop. I think taking with the bishop, it feels a little bit like you're going to run into e4 later, but maybe that's not a big deal. Again, going back to pawns creating weaknesses. I mean, is bishop takes like more, you know, safe for black because it doesn't move more pawns? I'm not that scared of e4, future e4. So interestingly, there was the game Miles versus Anderson where Miles was actually black in the same Queen's Indian. All right, so black did play bishop takes. It's not an automatic move. This is also okay. And interestingly, Zoltan Ribley, who I know really well, played a couple of times, you know, was a great player in 1984, but so was Sasanko. And the funny part about it is Sasonko is black, but Sasonko is like a Catalan expert. So it's sort of funny to see Sasonko playing the black side of Catalan. Anyway, that's fine for black too. Yeah, this is like low, low risk play by Dragon B. B3, clearly that's a move. I would be a little concerned about A5, A4, levering my queen side. But I mean, C5 is all business, like equalizing kind of move. So here, very businesslike play. Yeah, I don't like A3. I guess you got to do something though. Is he threatening bishop takes A2? Because if bishop takes A2, you have B3 trapping his bishop potentially. So we have to ask ourselves, is the possibility that ancient aliens actually exist a realistic assumption? No, sorry. No, really, is like bishop takes A2 actually a threat or not? Because if it's not a threat, then maybe we can somehow save time. This looks like some game I played at one of my simul's, honestly, Dragon B. I could have had the exact same position. The Big Mac also seems to attract food. Sorry, I misread that. The Mac. It looks like one of my games did like draw Uber driver is black or Burl Dixon or something like that. This move here, knight f6, gives up control of e5 a little bit. Mr. Coffee, gun run. Gotta ask yourself, okay. So Dragon B, unfortunately, running into a very solid player here who doesn't want to give him anything. Who was this guy? Sharadin. Queen a4, a good try. Trying to create some kind of weakness. I mean, the Catalan is a great opening. It's very solid for white, but it's also hard to play for a win. Sometimes it's a little too solid. Now a5. This reminds me of like Spassky. It's like Portish versus Spassky or something like that. a5 is nice to see some weaknesses. No weaknesses in white's position except for b3 just a little bit. This is not what I expected. So I'm a little bit worried about knight g4. Some sort of ultra violent. Could he play knight g4, sacking a piece for chaos? Here. Like, I don't know what's going on here. It's starting to look a little crazy. I would be careful. I don't think I like e4. It looks kind of risky. I had a similar game where I did do something like this against Uber Driver 2 weeks ago. And my knight ends up going back to d3. Wow, so e4. He doesn't have tactics. Knight takes e4, rook takes e4, bishop e4, and then bishop f2 check. So something with f2 check. You know, you would be better off if you had played h3 and you had, you know, the g4 square under control. No, his rook is actually defended by the bishop on f4, so that's not a problem. Yeah, I guess there's nothing like concrete here. Queen is sort of weird. Oh no. So it looks like you just blundered. But how many pieces does he have to give up? Too many pieces for the queen? This is interesting. So He didn't really count. You know, he had to give up a lot of pieces for the queen. It's actually a rook and 2 minor pieces for 2 pawns and a queen. I mean, that's close. Rook and 2 minor pieces is 11 points of material for the queen and 2, which is 11 points of material. So materially, it's equal. Then it just becomes the other factors like king safety, coordination, development, control of the center that become important here, not material. Which I think is, by the way, not to just like lecture you guys all the time, but you know, of all the principles in chess, material is the most overrated one. Clearly. This knight and queen combination looks a little bit tricky, but how's the queen getting in? Like d3? Maybe b6? He has b5, queen b6. He tried it, but it's alright. You've got c5. You've got it held. You got b4 if you need to. So he can't force himself onto the diagonal. Very good move. You got b4 whenever you need it now. So white is better. I did not see this move. That does the trick too. Dragon B, just all pieces working. You know, you could probably play maybe like b4, but that would open up the a file. If I was going to play b4, I would probably just play it directly. You got to be careful you don't open the position for the black pieces too. Okay, so this is just dead now. He's got knight takes b5. Wow, this move wins too. Okay, I was thinking just this. But okay, this is great, but actually this is even more crushing because you have knight e7 check. Ouch. Well, black just fell apart, so Dragon B needs a stronger opponent to challenge him in this position. I mean, it should have been close, you know, and it's a pity. It's kind of a pity that black, you know, didn't put up more resistance here, because if Dragon B had been playing like a 2100 or something like that, you know, and got this position, what would have happened? Or if he had been playing against me, what would have happened? It's a shame, like the second part of the game is kind of missing. It would have been cool to see this played out, you know, with good play by both sides. But his opponent just kind of fell apart. Jim, what's up? Bishop c7. Are you in time for your game? Just one more game between now and Jim's game. Oof, knight e7. Ouch. That's decisive. Time to resign. Alright, man. Good game, Dragon B. Becoming a Catalan expert. The only move I didn't like was e4. But it's a tough position. So, the other option, Dragon B, that we took away from this game, which was really important, is the early exchange on d5. If you play that early exchange on d5, black won't have the option to take with a knight, and you'll have a structure that's kind of like, you know, harder for black because the bishop on b7 is just kind of like ineffectual. And he doesn't get to trade pieces, which I think is slightly favorable for the black side there. Okay, so Merle, is that right? No, Mule Skinner. I want to say Merle Dixon, but he's absent today. Absent from class. Mule Skinner. An eventful game against high-rated player. He was white. By the way, I saw a great game from Mule Skinner recently. Mule Skinner, in the tournament, you played a nice game against the guy who won my Tuesday tournament. Purple Dragoon. That was a nice kill in the French. I didn't realize that Mule Skinner played the Tarosh French with white. I know he plays it for black, but I don't play the French really, so... Dragon B, thank you for the donation. Dragon B, like, challenging for a top spot with 500 bits this week. A great game against me also. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Mule Skinner's game against me. Why do you have to remind me of stuff like that? We're supposed to, like, put that in the past. I don't remember my bad games, Jim. It's like, what do you call it? Adaptive, you know, genetics. It makes life easier if I don't remember the bad games. I can move on, you know. Selective memory. That's one word. It's more like an adaptation for the future, you know. So I can, you know, it's like when you don't have a memory of traumatic experiences in the war or whatever, the memory wipes them out, you know, so you can go back into battle without being scared. Anyway, here's Mule Skinner. Mule Skinner is always white. He's deadly with white. So what happens if like knight takes e4 here? Just out of curiosity, it would be some sort of direct kill. Queen f3. If knight e4, what am I talking about? Queen f3. It's like an absurd suggestion. Just theoretically, if knight e4, you could play knight takes e4, d5, bishop b5 check, or something like that. I want to see this. I mean, is there a direct refutation of this move? Nobody plays bishop c4 and knight c3 against the Pirt's defense. You know? Has Astermate? Astermate? Man, where's Astermate? To my horror, I look at the list and I don't see Astermate's game. Maybe we forgot to put Asterbate on the list. Where is Asterbate's submission? Asterbate, did you submit a game? Oh yeah, he's before Save Dog. I left him out? Nobody's perfect. Sorry, Asterbate. We'll do Asterbate next. That's the problem when you put it in early. I'm more likely to forget it. Thanks for reminding me, Jim. Knight takes e4. Asterbate was too modest to bring it up himself. Anybody have a suggestion here? Obviously, if you're Asterbate, what would you play? Something like this. But I don't find this convincing at all. Final analysis is like equal. Oh my god. No, but I don't think this can be the best line. Let's check it out. Knight takes e4. Sorry. I want to see this. What does the engine say? You see, that's why you guys pay me the big bucks. Because I ask the questions that other people don't want to ask. You know what I mean? This position here, 14, 17, 19, I mean, I don't know. You know, it's like 28 games. And nobody had the balls, excuse me. Don't mean to offend our female members. Nobody had the guts to play knight takes e4. But let's be open-minded. Why is this move out off the table? You know? Seriously. I want to create dynamic positions to try to win. So yeah, we didn't consider queen h5. Just g6, right? And then queen d5. Is that the problem? Obviously, we're playing king d7. No, there's something I'm missing here. There's something I'm missing here. Knight takes e4, queen h5. Very legitimate question. I mean, you could just play e6. That's the problem with knight takes e4 and knight g5. G6, queen d5. No, I feel like we're missing something here. There's got to be something. E6, knight takes e4 looks good for white. Because of d5, knight g5. It's not a main and one threat. I mean, theoretically, you could play this, right? Queen takes check, king here, bishop check, king c6. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't see an immediate forced win in this position. But it's better for white. This is better for white. All right, let's just see. I don't have time, so I want to see the refutation to queen h5. Bishop c4, knight e4, queen h5, e6 it was. So I thought this would be good for white, but apparently it's not so clear because of g6. This is just dropping. So if we just take it further. Anyway, all right, guys. Long story. It's playable. Yul Skinner's going to have to consider that variation next time he plays Kramnik, although Kramnik probably won't find knight takes e4. So e5, transposing to a bad Vienna game for black. A bad Vienna game. d6 against the Vienna game. Critical. So I'm expecting d3 here. I don't know why Skinner wants to block his f-pawn. You know, he likes the f-pawn style attack usually. So I think knight f3 is kind of weird to block your own f-pawn. I guess he's threatening knight g5, maybe. But actually, I mean, black can play bishop e7, so the best way it's getting is a Philidor now. It's funny to see Mule Skinner play the Philidor. He loves closed positions, so I guess the most frustrating for Mule Skinner would be to play e takes d4 and play an what do you call it, exchange Philidor, because he would not like the fact that it's open, even though actually this is a trendy move, but that's what black should do if he knew, and he does know. Okay, e takes d4, knight takes d4. You could, yeah, you got to take with a knight here. Castle. So we transpose to a main line of the exchange Philidor, but the bishop's not really best on c4, although it's not clear what the best line is. This is a book position, like mainline book position of the exchange Philidor, except take away castles and put the bishop back on f1 and it's white to play. Like, what is the best move? Bishop e2, bishop c4, g3. Not sure, really. Anyways, let's see. So bishop c4, castles, a6. I don't know what the best is for black here. I have no clue. I know rook e8 is a common move. Rook e8 seems counterintuitive. An old student of mine, Stephen Baker from Bakersfield, used to play rook e8, and I think he was taught this by a certain Serbian grandmaster. Dusan Popovic, an expert on the black side of the exchange Philidor. But you know, you think like f7 is weak, but I think this is actually a good move for black. It's not that easy to attack f7 with another piece or something. So black played a6, a4. GT Caspi. I've made countless videos. It's crazy. I make like a video every week for chesslecture.com, and I've been doing that for over 10 years. So I can't imagine how many videos I've made. I must be one of the most prolific makers of chess videos. At least audio videos, whatever you want to call it. If I make a new one every week, that's like, what, 52 a year. You know, I probably have like more than 500. You know, I probably have, plus my YouTube videos, Plus on my streams, I have a lot. But this move doesn't look really pretty for black. It is a standard idea. It seems strange for black to make this pawn backward along the d file. But the knight doesn't really have a great place to go. I mean, if you look at this position, it seems a lot like a Sicilian, but it's actually quite different. The knight, you know, should it go here? Should it go here? Should it go here? Should it go here? I don't know. Tough to call. So knight f5. You have to be careful of tactics. Again, knight takes e4. But I think now, clearly white would have some kingside threats. I don't think knight e4 is quite as good as it once was. Actually, I mean, it's very, very dangerous to try to play something like this. Now, I'm seriously thinking this is probably just too dangerous. I like it better on move 3. So this is a standard Philidor happening. Bishop takes f5, pawn takes f5, knight c6, and then there becomes this like kind of hole here. But if you think about it, his knight can't camp out there forever. I guess knight f5 is not the best move. But I don't see anything special for black. I'm actually quite surprised that no one's tried this. It's not a clear mistake or anything. It's just too dangerous to play knight takes e4. I was looking at crazy stuff. Maybe even knight takes g7. I mean, anything's possible. I don't know, maybe that doesn't work because of knight takes c3. I'm getting a little bit crazy now. But this is just too dangerous for black. Yeah, so this knight f5 is not refuted. Oddly, it hasn't been played. In all those games, nobody played knight f5. What about the knight in bd7 Philidor? It's not as dynamic as this open Philidor. The exchange Philidor has become much more popular than the Hannum variation nowadays. Particularly like notable is the fact that Mamedyarov plays it, or does play it. You know, I don't know if he's still playing it much, but he has played it quite a bit in the past. Bishop takes f5, ef5. Other great players like Nisapianu. So this exchange Philidor has picked up, my teammate Zoltan Varga, it's picked up a lot of supporters. And the aforementioned Dusan Popovic, you know, another guy. So a lot of credible grandmasters playing the Philidor. Here white has the bishop pair and a good square with the c3. I feel like I've seen this game before. It's kind of strange. I mean, I've probably had a game like this along the line. I'm sure. Are you sure we never saw this game before? It's funny, like Muleskinner's playing a Hungarian, it looks like. I live in Hungary most of the year. I'm in the United States now, but he's playing Nodge C42. Is the 42, is the C42 Philidor? What is the ECO code for C? What is C42? G4 weakening the king side. He's going to go with the full-on F4 G5 now. This is Telegraph City. I don't live that far from where Marconi tested the first telegraph, Muleskinner. But it's very, 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 very obvious what you're doing next. So C42 is Petrov, okay. Well, that's why he's not big in the... Nodge means large in Hungarian, and C42 is Petrov. So his name translates to large Petrov, but he's actually playing the Philidor, so no fear. So here, I mean, I think that I would have gone with F4. That looks a little more dangerous for black, this threat of G5. Black can still play Queen E8 and try to hold up the avalanche, but it doesn't look like a lot of fun. Here, the telegraph pole falling down. So G5 right away. That That's interesting. I mean, wow. Is this really the best move for white? Nah. F4 is best. So he's a little bit too hasty here with G5. I mean, there's some interesting ideas, but this is suspect that our queen rook isn't in the attack. Black played 97 now, but I mean, you kind of wonder about queen d8. Just sort of holding it up. I don't like the way that the pawn structure is broken for white. Now, however, I mean, the threats look maybe fatal. Yeah, this is a strong move. But I think it's too late, isn't it? What about queen takes b2? Do we have f6? Even there, like rook e5 might be a strong move. I mean, you could take with check, and then play rook e5, and then play rook g7 check. Okay, this is death. The Death Star. That hurts. That's not good. So black missed his best defenses. The last call for queen d8. Rook h5 in final position? What? He had a defense? Oh my god. Rook h5 in final position. I said queen d3, he has rook h5. That's alright, we have queen f3. Same thing. Different story. Yeah, this works. This actually works. Yeah. Alright, so that doesn't matter. So rook e5 doesn't save him. Nothing saves him there. It looks like after this, ironically, yeah. Oh, he has queen c6. Oh god. So it's all busted. So it's all a sham. Yeah, sadly, just doesn't work. I mean, he can play queen c6 whenever he wants to. He just blundered with rook e5. That's so sick. So the point is queen g2, and then f3, or just pressure on g7. It's too late. You have to play queen c6. I thought that black would be okay here, but your attack is still strong. Takes, rook g1. Okay, so it's not that easy. But I think that although Mule Skinner might have been successful here, now, what about f3? Does this just win by force? Because I mean, we're threatening like total devastation with rook g1. The problem is rook f5. But then we have rook g3. So like rook f5, rook g3, threatening mate. And if rook h5, then we triple up. And it's toast. So, you know, maybe black's just lost here in this line. If you play f3. I don't see a defense. Does he have rook e8 or something? It's super scary. Even like rook e8, queen h3 check, king g7, rook g1 is a hairy situation that might even be a perpetual. Rook e8. I was thinking here, 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 and wondering what the hell was going on. Do we even have a perpetual? Is it possible that black is just lost? I mean, white is just lost. Possible. Yeah. White is just lost, so we can't give that up. So rook e8, how do we play here with white now? We just play rook g1. It's ridiculous. Okay. Somebody wake me up already. It's over. That's stupid. Alright, so black is lost there. Interestingly. It looks like... Alright, this guy, Elvis, has left the building. Estevez, please stop challenging me. Right. So Mule Skinner played rook takes g7, king h8, and he traded queens. But it's ironic. What do you do after f3? Man, that's so sick. You just avoid the trade of queens and black is lost. Devastating. So he traded queens, and now it's a mess. I would think you would bring your other rook over and activate it. But he played this. Okay, maybe it's the same difference. Yeah, but I wouldn't let him out here. Mule Skinner's letting him out. He's running up to king g7, running away with king f6. Shouldn't you try to mate him with rook g1? And then rook h5 only move. And it's a 5-on-5 rook endgame where the black king is cut off on the h file. White's at least not worse. But I don't know. I don't know about this. You know, you just chased his king out to the center in the endgame where it might actually be well placed. Yeah, black is totally okay now. Better king. Active rook on d5. This is starting to look creepy. You know, this rook's gonna... This king and rook, those two active pieces. White has the broken structure on the king side. Mule Skinner has a very tough endgame here to hold passive. You know, this is not fun. And g4 is like absurd. So black has to try to make progress here. I don't know, guys. I got to go through a lot of games, so we're not going to spend too much time. I only have we have about 50 minutes left, but I don't understand g4. This is like stupid. You don't want to help your opponent create a passed pawn. You know, in a game like you want it to be hard for him to create a passed pawn. He's actually helping Mule Skinner by playing g4. Here, have a passed h-pawn. Now, black needs to try to win on the queen side here. I mean, maybe this wasn't the best move for white. He needs to find a move, though. I suspect it's a draw. Like most rooking games. All rooking games are draws. That's a nice way to defend the pawn, but he has rook check. Yeah. Now the black king is significantly out of play. a5. Man, bad technique by black. Now the king and pawn game, is that a draw or we lost here? After rook c5, it doesn't matter. Black can probably draw down a pawn in a rook endgame, but I'm curious about rook c5. What about this king and pawn game? Is that a draw? King and pawn game. King and pawn game better for black. No, let's see. Take b3, king f3. Take b4. No. Oh, that would be messed up. If you traded and played b4 here. Unknown. This could get kind of scary. I'm just wondering what the hell's going on. Well, apparently white is winning. White's too fast. So you have to take en passant. And this is also winning for white. Are you serious? So you missed winning here with b4. That's a pretty important variation. At least I found it. I haven't lost my endgame touch completely. Unassisted by computer here in finding this line. Yeah, that's a nice one. So Emil Skinner played instead rook takes d6, which leads to what is likely like a drawn rook endgame, where he's a pawn up. Long one. Now this is a draw. It says it's a win. Well, the engine says it's a win. I said it's a draw. What? Because the king is cut off. Okay. The king is cut off. It would be a draw, but the king is cut off. Yeah. So, why is the black king there? He played what? Oh my god. So, he has king d5 here. It's a draw. And black instead goes here, losing. That's about the end of it. Now it's a win. So the king is cut off. Yeah, easy win now. So there's a lot of points there. I mean, Muleskinner really missed b4, which was a huge move. Okay, guys, we got a lot of games to go through, and I got to do Astrobate next. And Jim after that. Let's see if we can get through all the games. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the stream, bearing with me. Well, I mean, you know, you guys would find b4, right? It's a forcing move. You just got to make sure you analyze the forcing moves, especially in king and pawn in games. Anything that's a forcing move is the first thing that you analyze. I mean, b4, Muleskinner should have seen that. But it depends on the time control. You know, it's not easy. He's got a queenside majority. I mean, it kind of makes sense, you know. You got to calculate quite a few moves there. But I forgot what I was thinking. Astrobate. Is this it right there? Yeah. Okay, Astrobate, Thursday commentary game submission, smiley face, Scandinavian modern variation. Oh, this is weird. Oh, it's knight f6. This is funny. Okay. Astrobate faces the knight f6 Scandinavian. I've seen a lot of games where people played like d5, pawn takes pawn, queen takes against Astrobate. He likes to face that. Astrobate, I haven't played this against you. I don't remember. Astrobate, I don't remember you doing this. Maybe I've never played this line. Years ago, I made videos on the knight f6 Scandinavian, but I kind of gave up playing it because I don't trust it. You know, it's worth only playing in blitz and rapid chess. I wouldn't trust playing this line any longer, you know, in long games. It's like a weird noise outside. My neighbors are doing something crazy. They said they were leaving already, but they're still here. Okay, so d6. This is just one of my teammates. Just an utterly useless move for white. That really has no point other than getting out of established theory. The only purpose of d6 is essentially to give black 3 possible captures, all of which are playable. Cherish Bela lost. Yeah. So, yeah, you need to find a good move here, Astrobate. I recommend d4. Just give the pawn back. If you don't like that, play knight f3 and give the pawn back, but establish a strong pawn in the center. I think this is the whole problem with the Scandinavian. Again, like they can play bishop g4 or something, but basic problem with the Scandinavian is that white has a strong pawn in the center, and black has no compensation for that pawn. White has a strong center, black has no center. And it's not the Grunfeld defense. Blubby likes c4, but I don't think it's as good, you know? I don't think it's as good. Blobix, I think if you play the white side of the Panov or French with c4, you're justifying black's opening. I've played this opening so much for black, I know how bad it is, and it's a lot stronger. Yes, if you play d4, you'll have to navigate some sort of Portuguese gambit stuff with bishop g4. But let's say you play knight f3 here, which is like a really, you know, good recommendation. I don't think there's a lot of fun gambits or anything for black here, and so slowly there's nothing better than to like play queen takes d5, transposing back into the queen takes, you know, the queen takes d5 Scandinavian. I think this is like the most professional move order for white, probably. But you can also do other stuff. Another interesting line, Astrobate play bishop b5 check. A lot of people prefer to play this, but I think the easiest to handle would just be knight f3. Okay, so he plays the random move, queen takes d6, and now Astrobate is playing a queen d6 Scandinavian with a move behind. Not really good. You'd normally have your knight on c3 in this position already. Bishop e4 check. I guess that's what I just showed. So d3, very passive. White is a move down and also played the passive d3. Basically, Astrobate is playing the white side of an elephant gambit reversed or something like that. Okay, knight f3 now. I mean, even e4 looks like that could be advantageous for black. What do you do on e4 here? I would think this is just slightly better for black. I don't know about queen e2. It looks suspicious. Nefedov is in the house. Nefedov transposing to a queen e2. He's not actually in the house. He's boycotting my stream, I guess. I don't know. But this is weird. It would be like a Petrov. So maybe e4 is not that critical. Okay. Anyways. The guy did play e4. Wow. And now Astrobate turns it into Lycissian Gambit with knight to g5. Good practical try. Gambit style. And no, I think this is interesting. Cool Gambit idea. Queen e5 check. Develop the pieces. And sacrifice pawn on b2. How many tempi is a pawn worth? Boisero, greetings. Okay, this is a good try by black. Bishop c5. That looks like the best try. Posing concrete problems. Black not being materialistic. We can't castle, or can we? We can't castle because of bishop e3 and the knight hanging. So this actually looks kind of touch and go. If we move our queen to e2, we're going to have problems with queen takes b2. No. I mean, like bishop e3, f e3. No, that doesn't work. So what do we do now? This is kind of a pain. It looks like Astrobate's in trouble here. There doesn't seem to be a good move for white. I don't see it. So it looks like a reasonable try, knight f3. And he could have just played back, keeping the pressure on you. I mean, if queen e7, let's say, castles, bishop takes e3, and rook e1, bishop takes f2 check, king f2, bishop e6. I mean, black is a pawn up here. and doesn't seem like you have anything to show for it. So queen e7 was a strong move. Queen b2. Oh no. Wow, so you can sacrifice material with bishop c5. I'm just reading the line here. Queen a1, something like bishop d4. And maybe you could have a strong counterattack, sacrificing an exchange or something like that. Maybe even just castles. I'm not sure like what the best move is here for white necessarily, but black can't castle. Astrobate, this was a huge, huge moment. You could have stolen the initiative with that move. Instead, he played a kind of routine move, knight on bd2, and now black is out of the proverbial woods. As long as black gets castled, white's just structurally screwed. This is a disaster. It's not even the fact that white is down a pawn is the biggest problem, I think. The biggest problem is the structure. Subsequently, like white has, not that he's down a pawn. I'd rather be down a pawn with a solid structure than have this, where I have like all these isolated pawns that are going to be liabilities for the rest of the game. So he did waste some time, black did. Very subtle. Uh-oh. I feel rook takes f6 coming on. Yeah, black just fell asleep. But is this enough? Obviously, g takes f is probably a mate. Queen takes, bishop takes h7 check, king h8, queen h5. And if he gets greedy with queen a1 check, he probably gets mated. He takes with the pawn. Obviously this, 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 and then this. But the problem isn't queen a1 check, you know, king f2. Or is it? Actually, that is a problem. Because now he has back. This is a problem. What do you do after queen f6? I'm not even sure how white... Well, white just takes the exchange back. Okay, knight takes h7. So you get a pawn and the exchange back. Okay. I guess there's no mate. Yeah, that's sick. You just have to take your material back with knight h7. At least I figured out the solution. So he gave it to you, though. Astrobate's always lucky. He's like the luckiest player ever. Man, I don't know. He has like perfect karma. Queen h5. Every time they make some kind of crazy move against him. G takes f. Why would black voluntarily want to play g takes f? Leaving his kingside completely barren. The luckiest player on my stream. Queen h5. Just black committed suicide here. I don't mean to be too harsh, but that was a very lucky thing. I mean, after rook takes f6, which was a good move, it looks like queen f6, and I thought, oh, you've got bishop h7 check, and you probably did too, but there's no... It's funny, the black's position is so solid that there's no way to continue, because the point is, you know, even if he just went here, you know, queen h6, even if he wasn't hanging a rook on a1, the best that you have is like knight f7, rook f7, queen here, king h7 or something like that, and this is unclear. You know, I think this is actually just winning for black. So there's nothing there. You'd have a draw at, probably the draw at both, at best, at most. Okay, Astrobate, thanks for sharing. Guys, we've got a bunch of games to do yet and not a lot of time left. We only have like 30 minutes left. I'm going to even go over time. So we've got Jim, Uber Driver, just 5 minutes per game now. We had so many games today. Jim, Uber Driver, Arsenal, good 40% in Blubix. We're just going to have to go over games quickly. 5 to 7 minutes per game. So where is it? Good 40% is like last. Here. Jim's favorite opponent, Classy plays. We had also seen the game from last week. So Jim, probably a 70 move game. Jim is white. Jim is black. Jim is purple. You can drop your game and spend more time on the other one. Wow, Blobix. I mean, I don't really want anybody to have to sacrifice themselves. Asterby, thanks for the donation, man. I just try to be honest. I don't want to hurt your feelings by saying you're lucky, but you are. You know, you've been lucky in a lot of games I've seen. But I will say, Asterbate does a good job not making stupid mistakes. That's half the battle, you know? I mean, if you just don't drop pieces, people will make mistakes. Up until like 1700 level on lichess, people are going to lose the game on their own if you just don't do anything stupid. I mean, I think, honestly, you can get to like 2000 level if you play a style where you don't make mistakes. Don't make simple mistakes is enough to get to a certain point. But it may not be that exciting or rewarding, you know, to play that kind of style. So, all right, Blubix is sacrificing himself for the good of the community. We got Jim, Uber, Arsenal, and Good 40%. I apologize to whoever I missed, because I'm sure I left someone out. I'll get you next time. So I already went there, and then I'm back to the game again. Sorry, guys. All right, so Jim is black. Already had it open. So here we go. What do we got? Oh, again. So this is not the same game. This is a replay of the same game that you played before. Uber Driver is in here. Getting ready for a night at the airport. Uh-oh. You got a lot of Floridians coming in? Uber Driver, what's going on? Actually, I wouldn't think so, right? Hurricane escape ease from the Carolinas? Where is all these customers coming from? So bishop f4. Usually people are going down to the southeast coast now from the north. They're all running away probably. So we saw this. This is not the same game from last week, right? Last week I mentioned CD knight b5 tricky line. So this. Wait a minute. Did I pick out the wrong game? Oh, it's the same opening. Okay. So you refuse to try C takes D. I can't believe you're repeating this line. It just looks unpleasant for black. Is this a new move now, knight e4? Or did you play that before as well? I wouldn't repeat this. I think it feels awkward for black. I don't know why you want to go into that line. I will not play. I don't want to play with my knight on a6. It's just too awkward. So this is similar. I guess Jim just wants to repeat like the exact same game he had before. f6 makes some sense. It keeps e5 under control. And his opponent is a very strong classical online player. Although I've never played this player myself. His results online look quite good. Although, you know, the thing is, he's playing this very specific repertoire with knight c3. Jim's been hanging out with some coffee house players a little too much, I think, at the chess club. It's like, you know, it's funny how life is like all dependent on your perspective, you know. This is like, for me, you know, if you made like a poker analogy, you know, g5 is like going all in pre-flop without even knowing like what cards you have. I mean, this move is, it isn't that bad. I don't know. You know, I see what your point is. Like, you're gonna go h5, g5, go ballistic. I'm just concerned, you know, about your whole structure is like move forward. So it's not like you have some real secure place to put your king, you know, when you advance all your pawns on the king side. I admit that it's interesting from a for a fast time control type of. But again, this is a classical time control, right? 20 plus 60, so it's a simul, I guess. Here's the moment of truth now. Do you want your king on f8 or do you want your king on d7? Because I think that both moves need to be considered. It's definitely more, my first idea was to play king d7. And if you could exchange pawns and there was definitely no open d file, it feels like it would be safer, but I mean, I'm curious to see what Stockfish says. It's actually close. Yeah, now it's starting to realize the king d7 is more dangerous. I mean, that's my instinct too. Probably if you had exchanged pawns here, like CD, ED, I think king d7 would be much more viable as an option. But the fact that the pawns are not exchanged, on the d file, probably is the decisive factor here. You should definitely at least consider king d7 as a very serious possibility. Now h3. I mean, this just looks like really ridiculously weakening. f5, the e5 square. Crazy, dude. I would be playing king g7 here and just praying for survival. Jim just goes nuts. But his king looks too open to me. He's trapping the bishop, though. I guess this is true. I gotta be more materialistic. I've got to learn to be more materialistic. He's just trapping the guy's bishop. It's ridiculous. Wow. He fell for your subtle little plan. Maybe it's good. The wall of pawns. Where does white bail out now? When does he bail out? Okay, so here I was expecting you to take on f3. The computer doesn't like it. Queen f3, king g7. Wow, apparently you're just dead. Man, it's tough. So Jim, I didn't see rook h6. That's apparently a candidate move. King g7 makes the most sense. Okay, I don't know. This makes the most sense. So takes. Queen f3. Does he have anything better? I mean, clearly f3, king g7. I mean, you can protect f5 with all kinds of things. Your queen, your bishop on d7. I mean, this is not obvious. Does he have a rook sack? Rook takes f5? Is that it? Are you going to tell me that it's like rook takes f5 is the whole point? That's what it is, isn't it? It's rook takes f5. E takes f6, rook takes f5. Let's take a look. It's got to be this. This is probably very, very interesting. Forced draw, according to Stockfish. I mean, obviously this is a very dangerous threat, queen g4. That would be the first thing that I would play. Okay. I mean, first of all, Wade has to realize that he's in trouble. And I guess if he doesn't realize he's in trouble, then he doesn't sacrifice a rook. Maybe he was more optimistic. I'm a pessimist by nature. But I feel like you're up a piece here, So you should be better. Doesn't mean you don't make a mistake, but still. In a tournament game, I definitely would have played rook f5. If it's a draw, it's a draw. This became very complicated, but what's going on with rook d8 here? I don't understand what this move is. Seems irrelevant. It's a mouse slip, okay. At least your king is safe. I think he came out of this pretty good. White's down a piece. He's got one pawn for a piece. Some scary sort of threats, though. It feels like a Sicilian where he sacked a piece or something now. Refusal to take this pawn on a7, because I guess he loses the one on a4. Man, that was scary. I mean, it's scary to play this for black. You feel like you're on the edge. Of course, now we're starting to realize that we're out of the woods. So Jim's actually better, but it's not that easy. So I can understand him taking a draw here against a better player. Also depending on the time control, but you know, that's funny. That rook takes f5 was a cool idea. Okay, guys, we've only got a few minutes left. 15 minutes left. 3 games to go. Uber Driver, Arsenal. Arsenal hasn't been here today. And good 40%. Okay, sorry we can't spend more time on the game, Jim. I mean, I really enjoyed that. That was the game that deserves more time. It wasn't easy to win. I mean, probably there's some technical way to win for you. Participating in the Simul, one of the strongest players endorsed it. It was an interesting game. I won't be able to look at it tonight. So Arsenal is playing now. Okay, Arsenal. So this is a black game where Arsenal, who's not here, played a strong player. Okay, tools analysis board. Thank you, Jim. I just don't think, you know, I know that you wanted to repeat the same game, you had an improvement or whatever, but I just don't think you should play that line with black. That's the last time I'm going to say it. Play what you want. I mean, the whole thing with knight a6, you've got better options there. So f4. So Arsenal's playing a kind of unusual move order here that people who play, you know, specifically the Najdorf. Najdorf players will tend to play d6 here. Anand does that. I've seen Gelfand do that. But it's a slightly inaccurate Grand Prix attack. You know, it's justifying the Grand Prix attack a little bit better. So normally it's knight c6. Against Mule Skinner, I play g6. I've had problems with this line, knight c6, bishop b5. I really have to spend some time to go back and look at this again, because I really struggled in that line. So g6 is not that stupid. I mean, I used to think that d4 was a good move for white, but it's actually not that clear. If you look at this, look at these top games. Notice any similarities between the top games there. Strange but true. Like, black has won every single game. For black, win, 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 win. Anyways, that's my Mule Skinner preparation. But let's see. Was it Morales? No, Morales I was playing against, maybe. Actually, both of them. So d6 here, g6, here, here, here. You know, in this line, white should actually play bishop c4. Now, because black has played d6, bishop c4 Grand Prix attack becomes better. So white didn't know that. He plays bishop b5 anyway, and it's not quite as good. It's okay. This is a really unusual move. I would assume that most cases black's playing bishop d7 here. So I do not know anything about this. It looks like too aggressive for black, practically. Like he's trying to get a bishop for knight, like it's a Bogo Indian with white pieces or something. Alright, I'm out of my depth here. Trying to prevent myself from sneezing, if you're wondering. Why I'm making funny faces. Close to sneezing there. A6, right? So Black spent a lot of time on this whole bishop, knight d7, bishop d7, a6. Looks pretty good for white in that respect. d3, and then rook c8 is rook c8 is not really like critical here. It's trouble for black, I think, this position. I don't really know what to do. It's dangerous to castle kingside. It's dangerous to not castle. Actually, Arsenal fan has very close to what I usually go for in some other lines with like b5. But you'd be better off with like b5, bishop b7, cutting down that diagonal. If we could just play b5 and put the bishop on b7, I would transpose to a game I had with Muleskinner like the other day. An interesting position where I actually had a good game against him. By the way, Jim, I think that I did have a decent opening there. I subsequently missed my best chances, but so did he. Yeah, this isn't really optimal. I don't know. Maybe knight h6. There's some weird moves like that you can try. Who You Fan has a game. This move isn't really that good. a4, okay, it's neutral. I think that white is waiting for black to commit his king now. The thing is with rook c8, you can never castle queenside. So I don't know. Knight h6 looks like the best try. I think I've actually done stuff like this before, desperately, looking for a plan. White is definitely better here. It's like h3, bishop f3, queen f3. White's just better in this position. There's nothing for black to really do. So a4 is a waiting move, essentially. A good waiting move, knight h6. A good move by Arsenal, maybe h3 now, I would think. White's move here is pretty strange. Looks like a mistake. Bishop e3. I mean, king h1 is definitely a move to give you like bishop e3, bishop g1. So I don't get this. This looks like a bad move. And this is logical. And now you can play f5. Yeah. And I think that Arsenal sort of gained a tempo or something here. He magically jumped his f-pawn over his knight, essentially. It's still not easy. It's still dangerous. And white's still going to have like some threats maybe. But I think one of the most important things is that this bishop on d2, the Grand Prix attack, he doesn't have his other bishop on the a2 c4 diagonal, and now the d2 bishop is restrained by the pawn on f4. So white doesn't really have great attacking chances here. We're going to have to be careful. Maybe back to h6. This is a good choice. I think guarding from f7 with a rat-like knight. Uber driver, very standard plan suggested there. Queen e1, queen h4. And now e6. I don't know, if I could get away with it, I'd rather not play e6. Can we just castle here? Is that illegal? Spectacular Camel knows what I'm talking about. Like, is there something illegal about castling in this position? Because I don't really see why we can't castle. I'd rather not play e6 because that really reduces the flexibility in our pawn structure. If we have to play it, we'll play it. But if we don't have to play it, we don't play it. It's one more pawn move that will weaken our dark squares. So I think this is clearly an improvement. Let's see. Yeah. Castles looks like the best try. So I think this weakens black unnecessarily. e6 is a mistake. Rook e8 is not really optimal. What about knight f7 here? I don't see a problem. Do you guys? Because we're looking forward to an endgame where black might even be better at this point. Knight f7. I think that white, doesn't have anything. And maybe rook e8 is good too. But now the situation has changed. Doesn't look like a problem though. We'd probably play knight f7. He's leaving it there. It's okay. I don't want to leave this here forever, but bishop c6 is a good move. Spassky. Our Spassky-esque pawn on c5. Yeah, white is targeting that. We can't leave this here too much longer, guys. The knight on g5 is going to hurt someone. See, if he plays like the Uber driver suggestion, I mean, we might never get out of this pin. We're going to have like a Jim knight. The knight that Jim had on the other side of the board. We have the same alignment where this knight on g5. What's up, Pepe Lu? Thanks for raiding, party of 9. I think we got a table that big in the back. But the same thing, once it's in there now we can't get rid of it. Like Jim had the knight on a6 against the knight on b5. You gotta like avoid that kind of scenario. Though actually Arsenal has queen d4 check. I just realized. He's gonna be able to trade queens here. There's tricky situations here though. You know, and this is definitely an option. Let's see. I always spot the best queen trade instantaneously. Now you'd have to evaluate this queen trade very carefully. Like queen d4, c4, you've got pressure against c2, but your pawn is going to be a target on d4. So, I mean, Arsenal probably considered it and then dismissed it. Queen d7, then queen e2. Well, check it out. He played, okay, queen d7, and now white never played queen h4. So what am I talking about? Yeah, so not queen f2. What am I saying? Queen f2, bishop f8, queen, not bishop e3, but queen h4. Would Arsenal fan have traded queens or not? Remains to be seen. Queen d7. Finally. I know the feeling, Pepe Lu. No time. Eventually, when I sell my house here in America, I'll be able to like do other things like watch people's chess streams and stuff. But I have no free time, man. Thanks for just stopping by. King takes f7. Grabbing the a file. I don't like b4. I think that Arsenal should try to keep the structure as fluid as possible. h6 is a move I would consider. But this fixing the structure, I don't really like that much with the two bishops on the board. But it looks like black's still better. He's got that, you know. The bishop pair is an advantage. He did a good job here. Now, if only we could play g5 and keep the white pieces off of f4. If we had played h6 already, we have to be careful with queen h5 check, but I still think that that would be really big. And rook a3 looks sort of desperate. Hoping. It's hope chess. Still, he's fine. And now it looks like he's going to sack the exchange. That's fine. What's the big deal here? Oh, man. Take with the pawn. And you've got two bishops, an outside pawn. That's beautiful. Compensation. Total. Black's probably better here. I don't know if we want to do this, though. Do we really want our bishop to leave the protection of that pawn? It's a tricky position. Black has to work a lot to win this, you know, or play for a win. He's focusing on the king side. G5 is a move I love. That's just a matter, you know, it's like kind of a matter of time. There goes the queen side. Okay. Isn't this like mate? Yeah. What do we do about g3? He's going to have to take and give you two connectors. Man, that pawn is hard to stop. Well played. Looks like it's winning for black. Yeah, this is winning. What's h3 check? h3 check? Sorry? Does that work? Is that enough? Seems like black has better moves, but he's afraid of rook f2, I guess. There have to be other wins here. Bishop e4 check or something. I don't know about h3. We're cutting it kind of close. I mean, this pawn can come down too. That king move is mandatory. I guess it's enough. Whoa. King e2, b5, d3. Or d3 king. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a strange retreat now. We should be winning by going forward for black. Yeah, either forward move. Arsenal here plays passively. You know, this is a mistake. Maybe it's still winning, but it was a big mistake. You know, now it's a mess. It's a total mess. I'm getting a headache. Man. It's a draw now. Is it a draw? Yeah. I mean, the move should be king e4, right? King e4. I guess there's multiple draws. Is this a draw? What? Why not d1 queen? Technically winning. Not a good move by White. So he gave a draw here. I mean, it's very hard to win this. Try to beat a computer with this. Against a human, you have tremendous chances to win. So you never give a draw here against a human. You give a draw here against a computer if you don't know the position perfectly. I assure you, if you don't memorize a technique for winning this, you'll never beat a computer. But against a human, you have good chances. Arsenal should play for a win, but I don't know the circumstances. Anyway, guys, we've got Uber. We still have 2 games left. What? Did I skip Uber? I skipped over Uber. I just had them out of order, actually. So Uber, I didn't skip you. I just had you out of order. This is a quick game by Uber. Good. Wow, 0, 0, 0, 32 cent upon loss. How does that work? So Uber is white. Sadly, you know, Arsenal should have won that endgame by going forward. Chameleon Sicilian, Andrew Soltis, 92. Okay, so it's a mainline. It's going to be a poison pawn variation. Who do I know that plays the poison pawn? Rook b1, of course, is all the classical theory. This move has been played. It's kind of like, I guess, a sort of sideline. I don't know anything about this. Uber driver, I sold my poison pawn book to someone in 1988. You know, I really don't want to go here. You're asking the wrong person. So this is all theory. Castles. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. You know, one of the sharpest openings in chess. A favorite of Kasparov and especially Fischer with black. But the poison pawn, I don't know where its theory stands. You know, in modern chess so much. But not so many people play bishop g5. You know, it's just not trendy to play the bishop g5 Najdorf these days. So knight d1. I mean, this seems like a strange move. You know, I like the maneuver, but it seems like a strange move to be able to play in an open position. You know, in the closed Sicilian, it would be normal. But I mean, this is insane. Knight d1 in an open position. That's the engine move. Amazing that you know, black has the bishop pair. It looks like a rouser. And it's still the #1 suggestion of the computer. Wow. Shocking. So knight d1, h5, which is a standard rouser move. Now obviously there's a point to this, you know, a very clear point. Which black obviously didn't understand. I mean, I was expecting like b5. I mean, if b5, white can play c4, I assume, and break it down. Right, a good point for move driver. The h5 stops bishop h5. It's a rouser theme. Like usually if you get a piece wedged on there on h5, it's very difficult to get rid of it, and it sort of freezes the f7 pawn. So that's a standard type of move. But here, you know, he just totally didn't know what was going on. I guess he just assumes that knight c4 is okay because queen b4, but you have c3, right? You know, that's game. He's gonna fall on d6, and that's enough to destroy his position, even if you don't trap his queen or something crazy like that. So it's just a miniature. We can obviously like take here knight b6, take his rook. Yeah, but he just takes the rook. Black is not recommended to play the poison pawn Najdorf if they don't know anything as far as the theory goes. So that's the lesson for today. For today, kids. Plus 30. Do not play the poison pawn Najdorf. That's why I sold my book in 1988. I didn't want to deal with this kind of thing. Made in one. Okay, guys, last game for today. Thanks for the miniature Uber driver. And interesting though, you know, knight d1. If you go back to that move, we're going to close the stream down after one more game, guys. But, you know, it's like, look at the theory here. King h1, bishop h5, rook f3, queen e3, f5, knight b1, and knight d1 played the least of any move in this position. I would never consider knight d1 in an open game. You know, I mean, this is, like I said, it's logical because the knight doesn't seem to have anywhere to go in that sense. But you would never imagine that you could do that. I mean, I'd be looking at like pawn sacrifices here, like a rouser with e5, trying to get, you know, the knight to e4. Like anything for, you know, all my, what is it? Just giving whatever I can to get my knight active. E5 is also a novelty, probably not sound. Okay, guys, last game for today. Good 40%. Because Blubix gave up his turn. Man, this guy almost snuck in a rated one-day challenge against me. Almost clicked it by accident. If anybody wants to challenge me, I will play, like, you know, 5-day games, but I don't play faster than that. My king go for a horse, exactly. Anything for a knight on an active square. Knight d1. Wow. Alright, so this is another knight, no, dragon. Good 40%. I'd like to analyze our game from the simul. Okay. 18th move. I was black. It's a classical dragon. This is white's old school type variation with bishop e3. I really prefer, you know, knight b3, bishop g5. For white, I think that's the best. Here you castle kingside. Nefedov and a lot of people will play stuff like queen d2. Nefedov is one of the subscribers who hasn't been around lately, but we had a lot of games in this variation. Queen d2. He tries to castle queenside. I don't think it's a big deal, but I think the best line, as I said, is the traditional knight b3 with bishop g5. And I did have a game on the stream recently in that line. Again, guys, thank you for joining my stream. I will be back tomorrow. We're going to be playing Fast Blitz. Well, fast for me anyway. 5+3. Open challenges. Open mic night tomorrow night. 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I didn't like a3. I think this is a wasted move for white. But anyway, he said he wants to take a look from the 18th move. This is a good move, queen e3. So we got to a position where I didn't really make any comments on b4, if I recall. And I blundered here. I realized I blundered when I played bishop b7. I actually realized it as soon as I made the move. But apparently I'm in trouble anyway. Like if you look at the stockfish, b6 was a bad move. Obviously I'm facing b5, getting my bishop trapped. So the best would have been to just play a6 and stop it, physically stop it. Now I know. But I thought I could do this, drop back to b7, no problem. But after rook d1, I'm suddenly facing e5. And so I'm facing the combination of threats of b5 and e5, after which, I'll be vulnerable to a double attack against d7. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could play something like knight to f6. My position is a little bit passive. So bishop b7, and I knew I was in trouble now. So the best I could do was come up with this, trying to exploit the queenside c-file, because he's played b4. And he said for move 18, so e takes d6, and I played knight f6, and this is not the only move. I mean, I could obviously take on d6, but I thought this way I don't weaken my structure. So now he found a fantastic move, move 18. I just missed this. I missed this completely, and I don't know if I'm lost or what. I'm down a pawn with no compensation, really. I mean, you got slight weakening along the c-file, but I was pretty sad, that I allowed this to happen. I completely missed knight b5. Now I have two problems, this and this, over here. So I played bishop a6. I thought this is logical. And then he blundered with d7. Now, I don't remember seeing queen e3. So apparently my move is a worsening my position. Because the bishop's unprotected, now he plays this. He has a double threat here. I'm just saying what the computer said. But there really wasn't anything I could do. Like once I went here, once I went bishop e7, e5, my position is probably lost. I'm just losing like the central pawn in my position without any real compensation. So I guess it would have been better to do it a different way. Like here, here, and just taken. And if queen d6, knight f6, I can probably fight for a draw here if I don't have a secondary weakness in my position. But the problem was, what I did was not realize, this is a problem. Now I have two problems. The first pawn I lost, and my queenside is weak. So I'm lucky here that he played d7. And I have this move, triple attacking d7. And I thought this was amazing. Now he finds queen e3. And so if rook d7, I thought there was some problem. Why did I not play this move? Knight a7. So all my analysis is based on this. I guess I had some move that I didn't see. Something like knight to d5. That doesn't make sense. This was basically why I didn't play rook d7. So apparently I have something here. Bishop e2, queen e2, rook d1. Queen and rook takes, queen c7. And when I looked at the position, I thought, okay, I'm down a pawn for nothing. Apparently I'm on f4. The other thing I didn't like about this position was the fact that you have a 3-on-1 queenside majority. That looks like it's going to be favorable for white. Easier for you to promote your pawns, but actually, according to the computer, it's not clear. It's hard to believe. I mean, white is up a pawn, and white has the 3-on-1 queenside majority here, and white's actually got all three pieces in the game. It's hard to believe that the computer thinks that white is not winning in this position, or not clearly better at least. So I wouldn't have felt like this is enough. I wanted something better. That's why I played this, which is effectively a mistake. So knight d4 was lucky. And then I thought this was cool. We got to a position later where he takes this, I played rook d8, and he finds this move. This was weird, you know, I mean, he's threatening knight e6 check. And that was a good resource. I mean, I'm not sure he should have played king f1 in the first place, but here we are. Queen c4 check, knight e2, another move. I assume he's going to move his king. No, knight here. And now I can't take the pawn because I'll lose a piece. So I have to attack the pawn again. And that's what I did. I just repeated moves. Now he tries to win with queen e2. So it's fearless play. And so I figured this is a draw, but still white has some sort of lingering advantage here. His king is like one square closer to the center than my king. And his knight is just slightly better placed than my knight. So knight endgames are really, really tricky, guys. I didn't know what to play in this position. And I still don't. I really would like to have some time to calculate. I'm sure that I looked at a6. I was afraid that it weakens my position more. I'm sure that I looked at king f6. And I was afraid that it's difficult to approach without walking to like knight c6 check, dropping a pawn on a7. So I was frozen here. The engine says it's like close to equal, but it's actually not so easy. So I played knight f6. My knight's actually going away from the queen side, but I wanted to get the knight to an active square. Knight b5, a5, ba5, ba5. White's still a tiny bit better. His king is a little bit closer to the center. And now knight d6. Is this a mistake? Yes, he should move his king in. This I was nervous that I might lose, but knight endgames are really, really tricky. You know, the engine says it's probably a draw. But just being a touch closer to the queen side makes you better here. So I was happy with the draw at this point. It was a poorly played game on my part, I think, from the point where I allowed e5. But a reasonable endgame. So knight d5, g3, and then knight c3, and I still thought I was a tiny bit worse here. But, you know, it's not a big deal. So it's a draw. Anyway, interesting game. I mean, b4, my reaction was bad here. So a6. I don't really like putting my pawns on the white squares, you know, when I have a white square bishop. It helps to trap my own bishop and restrict it. So I prefer to play, you know, with the pawns on the dark squares, like accelerated dragon or something. But unfortunately here I'm like one move behind. If I play queen b6 check, king h1, forcing you to make a useful move, you're still threatening to win a piece with b5. So I would be happy, you know, maybe I could have done like knight back to f6 or something like this. I'm not sure, but I'm scared of e5 again. So I need one more move to play something like rook on a d8, and then probably black would be okay. But basically an interesting game by white, like bishop g7, you know, king g7, and b4 in this position. This is the #1 move according to the engine. b4. You know, I regarded a3 as a completely harmless waste of time. But now b4. Actually, a3 is unnecessary, except for the fact that it protects b4. This move would not be possible because of queen b6 check, queen takes b4. So literally, like, this is possible, and this is the best move by white. Nice try. Good game. Okay, guys, so good 40% there. 20 cent upon loss and 2 blunders. I had 20 cent upon loss, no blunders, no mistakes, and 5 inaccuracies. You know, much more sort of steady. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me for the stream and submitting the games. Thanks to Mr. Coffee for being our moderator. He's got a thankless job, and we should appreciate him. Okay, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for Blitz at 5:30 here on my stream. 5:30 Eastern Time, 5 + 3 casual blitz against all takers tomorrow. Take care, guys. Bye bye.